Well, just to start off with, I'd just like to thank the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance for hosting us for the event. Yesterday was a fantastic day, and the evening was great too. Especially, it's kind of disappointing the timing didn't work out with the legislature, but I was impressed last week when I got a phone call from one of my local MLAs, for Wild Rose, Gary Bickman, and he wanted me to express his support for WPAC work from the Wild Rose, and he really does appreciate the fact that local WPACs are bringing a community voice to planning within our own watersheds, and a decentralized local approach is something that they support, and they would continue to support our work as well. So bring in the love. I figured I went back to the room last night and had to add some different slides, so I figured to color things up a little bit. So I do hail from the Milk River watershed. We're a little bit unique, a little bit different than some other areas of the province. Just to talk about why I love my watershed, I figured I'd give you a little bit of a photo tour of some of the areas. This is the North Fork of the Milk River, just as the river comes up out of Montana. This is another area farther to the east. I don't know if anybody can really see. Does anybody know what those plants are in the foreground in the picture here? Yucca. Yeah. This is on the Lost River. The Milk River is actually at the back end of the canyon here, and this is one of two sites in the watershed that we have. We have yucca, and probably the only places in Alberta where it's growing natively. This is another one of my favorite areas. Really incredible. This is on the Pinhorn Grazing Reserve, getting into the Milk River Canyon. If it wasn't for the fact that you got 60 kilometers of gravel roads to get to these areas, this would be probably the number 2 tourist destination in the province. The Milk River Canyon is a spectacular country, and then dotted throughout the croplands. I was trying to find a combine picture to help to make Rhonda feel at home last night, but I didn't have any on without my external hard drive. But we do have dotted wetlands, really significant area for this particular area. There's really high densities of pintails habitat, and this one here is right in the middle of a chunk of Hutterite land with a really nice wetland that's still intact. And these are like 10-foot tall bulrushes and stuff in this area. This is down Riding on Stone Park. Those of you that attended the WPAC Summit a couple of years ago, I love it when we come up over the hill at Riding on Stone coming out of the prairie, and all you hear is wow from everybody in the back of the bus who's never been to this country before. It's absolutely incredible. It's a gemstone in our watershed. Lots of wildlife issues. Pronghorn, I grew up actually north of Calgary, between Didsbury and Olds on a farm up there, and I actually I've never seen a pronghorn in the wild until I moved down to Lethbridge back in about 2000. So we've got these guys all in the watershed. And this is can anybody tell me what those are? Not close, not sharptail. They're actually sage grouse. Yeah, exactly. And those of you that are familiar and following with some of the issues down in my part of the world, we had maybe I'll get into this a little bit later. We had a significant event last year occur with environmental protection order for the greater sage grouse being brought down from the federal government, and it's caused a bit of a concern in the community. This shot was actually taken only a couple of weeks ago on a road outside of the protection order, outside of the critical habitat area, and it was really exciting to see. There was two broods, one with 8 and one with 10 very healthy birds doing really well down there. I guess caused some concerns for all groups, whether you're an ENGO or a group that's out there looking for dinosaurs. It's caused some access issues, and this particular spot was a private land area, and the landowner actually didn't want me to let people know where they were. He's happy to have them on his property, but he's concerned about some of the issues associated with having a species at risk on this place. So. And then this is on the Montana side. This is part of the siphons that over 100-year-old infrastructure that move water from the St. Mary's diversion in Montana over into the North Fork of the Milk and the water that comes up to Canada. One of the areas that we addressed in our integrated watershed management plan is the fact that the Milk River Basin isn't recognized as a as having an interbasin transfer. And the reality is that over 80% of the flow in the Milk in the summertime is actually St. Mary's River water. So these are two completely different basins, and it has ramifications with in terms of funding for projects for municipalities and for dealing with long-term infrastructure issues, and this is again archaic infrastructure, unfortunately, that's over 100 years old that we're relying on in another international jurisdiction for some of the sustainability and fragility areas. So I don't need to get into that, but there's the Milk River at the very bottom. The other very unique aspect, like Andrew mentioned, of our watershed is that we do work trans-boundary with our partners in Montana and provincial counterparts in Saskatchewan quite frequently. And one of our greatest successes the past couple of years was completion of a Trans-boundary State of the Watershed Report, where we actually were able to establish a trans-boundary team in Montana and other folks in Saskatchewan to help us out to instead of looking at this one artificial line for the provincial boundary, to blur those lines and take a more geographic approach, and recognizing that we are intricately connected and reliant on other jurisdictions. This is probably one of the most important slides that I have related to implementation of watershed plans. The Milk River watershed, we really actually pride ourselves on being a watershed that does get our feet wet and our hands dirty. We do. We make sure that we do the planning processes. We identify priorities and concerns. We build partnerships and local expertise and harness that energy from that large network that we talked about yesterday. We revisit those strategies, and we're at this point now where we've developed a watershed management plan and we're implementing that plan. But it's not for us. Completing that watershed management plan isn't the finish line. It really is a starting point, and we have all along have built this network of information and resources and projects that have helped fill in that plan. So doing things like our annual canoe trips and hike tours to those incredible areas of the watershed, and letting even watershed residents who've never even been to that Milk River Canyon get out and see those areas. That's really important for us. And programs like our school programs and field trips and the work that my colleague Sid Cunningham has been doing for us in the watershed this past years, and developing the online CTS courses. That stuff is critically important, and now that we've got that finished watershed management plan, those are checking off things on the list and saying that this is how we implement it, and so we're already moving that direction. Everything from the field workshops as well and everything. So. I know we talked about this yesterday too. Everybody has very extensive boards and representing, but it's incredible when you start looking at the diversity of stakeholders that we have on our watershed councils, and it's really important for us to celebrate that and recognize that we do have some of the best and brightest minds from within our watersheds on these councils, and I don't have as many PhDs, Mark, on my list for these folks, but you are 100% correct. We've pulled in the local experts, and we've pulled in a lot of academic experts that help out with a lot of the work that we do. And if it wasn't for the fact, again, there's Mary and myself are the only two full-time staff for the council, and Sid is helping us out on a part-time basis. If it wasn't for the fact that we had those volunteers and team members to support the work that we're doing, we really wouldn't get anything accomplished. So. And getting back to the work that the Milk River Watershed Council is doing, we've completed over 9 years of water quality data that AESRD long-term monitoring network site at 880 is great to have that location, but it doesn't tell the whole story for our watershed. And if it wasn't for all the support of our partners, particularly the municipalities, for providing staff time to actually go out and have trained staff to go and collect water quality monitoring, and ESRD had a great partnership to help out with some of the analytical expenses, we wouldn't have the data that we needed, that 9 years worth of data now, to be able to make informed decisions and make informed recommendations for watershed management planning. And other WPACs, I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to keep banging the drum on it. Lean on your partners, especially municipalities. This is valuable information. We talked about in Robert's presentation briefly about social license to operate. Municipalities, producer groups, everybody's looking for the social license to operate in our watersheds. And this is a project that our municipalities are really proud to support, and they like hearing the updates from year to year and coming in. And when there is an issue that needs to be addressed, they've got something to stand on. So we also do support our stewardship groups in the basin. We don't have as many as some of the others, but we do provide everything from water quality monitoring support to helping organizing, getting grant funding for projects. We do quite a bit of cooperative work. This is an easy win, and I think it's one that it's a project that could easily be extended to other WPACs, is working on things from invasive species management and mapping across primarily municipal boundaries, but including our partners from Alberta Parks and Heritage Rangelands and other areas. This project we've actually extended into Montana, and we're planning for our 2018, I guess now, State of the Watershed Report. We're planning on doing having everybody collecting data for weed mapping, for instance, across the entire watershed, Montana and Alberta and Saskatchewan, comparing apples to apples instead of kind of a ad hoc approach. So that's been very good. We've been very adaptive with programs like our fecal source tracking work that's been done in the Milk River watershed. Some of this work has been extended to areas around Lethbridge, and some areas farther north are looking at similar work. We're cooperating on landowner information sessions. These are extremely important. Everything from working well workshops, again, like stealing from Megan yesterday about piggybacking on other provincial programs or taking bits and pieces. Again, when there's only a few of us that are working on this at a full-time capacity in the watershed, we need to piggyback on other programs. Programs like that working well workshops are fantastic, and we do those annually. We've had a lot of oil and gas activity in the basin now too. In the last few years, we've held some information sessions, and we kept them down the middle. Although the entire intent of the workshops is to inform producers to make informed decisions when they're dealing with that, and it's been supported strongly by the industry. Doing well abandonment. There's been a long history of groundwater work in our watershed, even working trans-boundary with Montana, and we've been working on a program to decommission abandoned water wells in the watershed. Again, back to that, doing aspects. We do support a lot of stewardship work in the basin. This is just one particular project where we're installing some winter watering systems for a producer just west of town, but it's actually it's a perfect location because it's actually tied directly to one of our long-term monitoring sites that we've been monitoring, and we do recognize that there's been some water quality concerns at different periods of time when there's been some flushes, and so this project in particular, we're hoping to see if we can build on the base data we've got and see if we can make a positive trend in the opposite direction. Being adaptive. Those of you that attended that WPAC summit a couple years ago, remember one of our tour stops on the first crazy day was at the Milk River fire. We've done some follow-up work there, working with universities to deal with that. And these two ladies, Sid Cunningham, give wave. I think if you haven't met Sid yet, she's fantastic. She's our guru with our youth engagement programming, and she's developed online CTS courses, distance education. One of the issues with our watershed is our watershed's dying. The communities are dying. People are moving away. We're having a hell of a time just maintaining minimum services, hospitals, schools, population to steward this watershed. And the schools in particular, because there's so many less students, there's less opportunities for these kids to take different courses to finish off their high school education. One of the things that we can do as a watershed, and this could be applied to other WPACs, is to do these distance education courses. This is when we took our State of the Watershed report that was completed in 2013 and broken this into modules that have direct link to curriculum ties for high school groups, and it's online, it's interactive, everything from issues with species at risk to water. This course in particular is accredited, and it's it's an introduction to the watershed, and we could do additional modules on everything from sustainable agriculture to water quality, other things as well. This has been a real shot in the arm for us, and a great opportunity for the schools to encourage some of these kids to say, don't listen to your parents so much when they're saying, go away, become a dentist, become a lawyer, get out of this place and get a real job and make some money. But there's opportunities to stay involved with agriculture, stay involved with the watershed, and get excited about environmental sciences and and watershed management and other issues that we're working with. And this is almost a preparatory course for college for a lot of kids. So, I mentioned before some of the hike tours, the things we do. There was about a week, at the beginning of October, we were out in the Milk River Canyon, and it's one of our resident paleontologists there, Wendy Sloboda, on the left, and we were digging up. We found all kinds of dinosaur bones and artifacts, and you name it on the day. And it's just an opportunity for us to celebrate that watershed, get to know it. On the right, there's who knows what that yellow plant is. What kind of toadflax? Dalmatian toadflax. That's good. Yeah. Contrary to my better judgment, we actually did a project with Writing on Stone Park where we actually pulled toadflax this fall. Don't get me started about, I know toadflax is rhizomatous and we should have been using da-da-da-da. Anyways, we get out and we do some stewardship work all the time. Again, tours, high school groups, youth range days at the bottom here. This is one of our great programs. It was started by the municipalities and the Milk River Watershed Council's taken over and become a champion for managing the program. But each year we get kids out to deal with that. And then now for something completely different. As far as what the topic of the talk was supposed to be with Watershed Management Plan, I know Andrew's probably telling me I got like 2 minutes left, but our Watershed Management Plan started way back in 2008, so before my time even with the council, we've had a hell of a run. A lot has changed since the endorsement of the terms of reference in 2009, and we developed the Trans-boundary Single Watershed Report in that time. Our board has changed, and a lot of the planning context and the government has changed in that time. I think this is really important. This slide hasn't changed much since day one. The watershed plan, as much like others, is intended as a guidance document, and we need to remember that it's a planning tool, but it's only as valuable as the information within in that document. And I think we've got to recognize that when we're developing these. They're not going to be the be-all and end-all. A watershed plan really is, in our opinion, it's a guidepost on the road. It's not the finish line, and we try to approach it that way. The Milk River Basin, we didn't take a sub-basin approach or an issue-specific approach. We said, okay, we're a small enough watershed, let's try to pull all these pieces together at once. Surface water quality, groundwater economy was an area that we added at the end, actually, in the process. Biodiversity, riparian areas and wetlands, surface water quality, quantity, and of course land use. We tackled all these areas together, and it was almost impossible to get our heads around that. It was sitting down. None of us are experts in all those areas, but we did our best to try to come up with those. And economy, I brought this up specifically because recommending strategies to maintain and improve the economic condition in Milk River Watershed. Again, like I mentioned before, it was interesting when the SSRP was coming around. The very first discussion was that the SSRP region is growing and exponential growth, and we need to manage growth in the future. And the people sitting around the tables in Milk River were kind of chuckling, saying, geez, could we get a little of that down here maybe? And we're not necessarily the same as other areas. The planning context has changed. SSRP caused some issues in our community. The biodiversity framework in particular, I mentioned the environmental protection order for sage grouse. Because the province didn't distance itself from the environmental protection order, that everybody got lumped together, and this has caused some issues. And so I had particular people on my council and on our planning team that wanted to make our document a response document to SSRP. And again, that caused some major challenges to try to say, no, this isn't supposed to be a political vehicle. This is supposed to be a reflection of our community's values and based on sound science, monitoring, and research for a roadmap for our future. And so we've really been focusing on getting it right. This is I don't know this picture. Who can tell me what those cows might be? I think one might be a belted Galloway. One looks like a Holstein. I'm not too sure. But this is on the WordPress site for after the SSRP meetings in Milk River, and the caption was prioritizing agriculture was a big theme in the Milk River talks, and this really kind of summarizes what the community concerns were in the milk. Is that that's definitely not the Milk River watershed, put it that way. That doesn't really reflect agriculture in our watershed. And what our plan is really trying to do is focus on getting it right and making sure that there isn't a misinterpretation of the community as well here. So we've gone since that time. If you want to actually see what's in our plan, please check out our website. Since that time, we've focused on addressing those issues and making sure we got it right. And one of the things that we also did that, which is kind of unique with ours, is on our implementation strategy, which is built right into our plan, which identifies the jurisdiction and the actions and the timelines, the timetables and priority for doing actions. We added a community value, and this was we literally had to sit down with a subcommittee of community members and producers and irrigators and ranchers and say, okay, for issue X, we recognize the research is telling us that we need this right away. It's a higher priority. What is the community value? And they're saying, geez, you know, it's really not a high priority for the community. So they gave us one more complicated way of kind of organizing our feedback, but it really does provide us with a bit more detailed roadmap. So, you know, facing reality, do we have it right? I don't necessarily know if we have, but we're a lot farther ahead in the game now than we were in 2008. And I'm excited to say that we've got full endorsement from 2 out of 4 municipalities, and those 2 municipalities were the ones that we were most concerned about. We feel like our municipal stakeholders are, next to the GOA, are probably our most important managers for the basin in order to make it feel like we have an effective plan. And the other 2 are, it's just a matter of time. They want to have another review at the next council meeting before they move ahead with it. But they're moving ahead, and we're supporting them with implementation on some of the work that we've got some planning for. And then also, I think these are 2 really important programs. We mentioned these a little bit last night and sitting around the table. The RAP program and the community program were both very good. But I don't think, back to my Monty Python reference, I don't think these are quite the holy grail. Maybe it's a holy hand grenade in terms of the structural part of the program, but moving forward, I think we're actually we're moving in the right path, and we got to use all those tools that are in our toolbox to our advantage. And I think WPACs need to have an active role in ensuring that those programs roll out, and we get those easy. I don't want to say easy wins, but we have wins. We show success. We show that the GOA that we are, you know, willing to put some skin into the game as well, and ensuring that we're successful. And we've got a lot of work to do, but I do appreciate the direction we're headed. So thank you very much for your time.